Hello everyone and welcome to the long-awaited sequel to Glory Hunter Season 2. It's Glory Hunter Season 3. Now, last time out in Season 2, of course, we were with Manchester United for our first season in the Premier League, because obviously the first season we were with Lille in Ligue 1. And as far as seasons in the Premier League can go, it was a pretty good one. We won the Premier League, we won the FA Cup, and we won the Conference League. So we won almost all the competitions we were in. We just missed out on the Carabao Cup. Now for Season 3, we've decided to stick with Manchester United, even though we've technically done the English objectives of winning the league and the FA Cup. In terms of being able to win the Champions League, this is the best chance we're going to get. There weren't many jobs available at all. So to be honest, sticking with Manchester United, the team we've got is very good, so, trying to win that Champions League is going to be our main priority for this season. So you'll probably find us rotating a fair bit for some Premier League games, for some FA Cup games, because as much as obviously we'd like to win them again, we don't need to. The Champions League is going to be our absolute main focus. So with that said, let's get straight into the season and see how we got on. So we start on the club vision screen, so we get to see what the board want us to do. Don't mind the little failed icon next to be competitive in the Community Shield. We don't talk about that match. But other than that, you can see they want us to be competitive in the Champions League, which is absolutely what we're going to be trying to do. We are going to want to, try and win it pretty much. They want us to challenge for the FA Cup. Obviously we will, but we won it last season, so it's not that important. And they also want us to be competitive in the EFL Cup, which no one really cares about, but if we can win it, then, it's Glory Hunter, why not? We've also been very, very busy with transfers, as you can see. It says total spend 200 million, and in total receive 62 million, so overall we've actually spent a fair bit of money. You can see the main one that's gone out is Martinez, who we sold to Chelsea for £49.5 million, which I thought was a pretty good deal. And to replace him, we've brought in Tanguy Nianzou for 54 million. We've also decided to bring in Baku on a permanent deal because he was on loan with us last season, so he cost us 27 million. And then, if you've ever played Football Manager, you know who Urian Timber is. A very, very good centre-back, so we've brought him in for £67 million. And if we look at the attributes of Nianzou, you can see why we paid £54 million for him, because he is very good. You see, he's got 16 jumping reach, 16 strength. He's 6'3", I think, is what 191 centimetres is. But overall, he's just very well-rounded. 16 determination, 16 composure. You can see 3-star for us at the moment, but with a potential ability of 3.5, but I reckon he could actually be better than that. And you can see he's already worth between 78 to 87 million pounds, so already worth a fair bit more than we paid for him. And moving on to our record signing, £67 million for Urian Timber, and you can see he's well worth the money. He's 4 stars, 5.5-star potential. Overall, his attributes are very, very good. Obviously, we will be playing him in the centre-back, but he can also play right-back and DM, so he's going to be a pretty well-rounded guy for us, and he's going to be probably playing in a lot of positions over the season. We've also signed Leandro Trossard for £28 million. You can see he's not the best. I mean, he's only 2.5-star, and it looks like he's not going to improve, but we really did need a backup person that could play, he can play pretty much everywhere. Left wing, attacking midfield, even striker if we need to. And the final signing of the summer transfer window was Lucas Gornadouf, which I've probably pronounced wrong, but we paid only £29 million for this guy, and you can see he's already worth up to 73 million. He's 3-star, he's got 4-star potential, and he's basically, hopefully, going to be the eventual replacement to the likes of Casemiro and Eriksen when they get a little bit older, because obviously Lucas is only 21 years old, so he's got a lot of time to improve. And you can see we're going to be sticking with the same overall shape and tactical style that we did last season because, it worked very well for us. We managed to win the Premier League and the FA Cup, so there's really no reason to be changing anything. Now, this is one starting 11 that we could use, but we've got a lot of squad depth, so it could change quite a bit. So, where Milinkovic-Savic is, we could have Fernandes, and on the right, we could have Anthony as well. We've also got Dybala, of course, and then Baku will be playing right-back instead of Timber sometimes if he plays as a centre-back or a DM. So we've got a lot of options. That's what I wanted to try and make sure, that we've got a lot of people that can play in a lot of positions, so that if we get injuries or anything like that, we don't have an issue, especially with the fact we're going to be trying to compete with the Champions League this year. So fixture congestion is going to be quite a bit of a problem for us. So our first game in the Premier League was a home fixture against Burnley, and you can see Sancho already getting himself a couple of goals before half-time, and our main goal-scoring threat from last season, Rashford, he gets himself one as well, and then again, just before half-time, we get the fourth to make it 4-0. We then follow that up with a 3-0 win away from home against Crystal Palace, and then, rather concerningly, lose our first game only 3 games in against Spurs away from home. The next game saw us come up against Newcastle United, where Savic got his first goal. Fernandes had his shot blocked, but Sancho was there to make sure it went into the net. Sancho once again, a very, very nice strike there to make it 3-0. Sadly, Newcastle, from a corner, they do manage to get it onto Hugo, who makes it 3-1. But in the 89th minute, Trossard onto Dybala. He wanted to get on the score sheet to make it 4-1. We then drew against Chelsea away from home 1-1, beat Southampton 1-0, and then beat Aston Villa 1-0. And with that, 7 games played, we are at the top of the league once again. And it's actually Southampton in second place, and then followed by Arsenal and Liverpool. So, be interesting to see how Southampton managed to carry on in this season. We then played Liverpool away from home, where they actually managed to beat us 3-0 to make our second loss of the season. Our next game saw us come up against Fulham, where Timber managed to get himself sent off in the 14th minute, but it didn't matter because Anthony in the 47th managed to get the first goal of the game to make it 1-0. And then I do not know what happened in the box there, but somehow it resulted in Rashford scoring a goal. They managed to get one back, sadly, to make it 2-1. This is all happening in the last minutes of the game as well, and then 2-2. And then in the 91st minute of the game, Savic finds Rashford in acres of space to make it 3-2. And then Trossard finds Anthony, who smacks it off of the defender to make it 4-2. And then in the 95th minute, we aren't finished with the goals here because Fulham, from a corner, managed to get themselves a goal and make it 4-3. Crazy, crazy game. We then played Leeds away from home, where in the 23rd minute, Rashford opens the goals to make it 1-0. They managed to get one back in the 45th minute. Anthony finds Sancho in lots of space, and I don't know why the keeper didn't try and pick that up, but it meant that Rashford was able to get the goal. But then they come back at us again in the 83rd minute, but we weren't going to be having that, were we? Because in the 84th minute, only a minute later, Rashford wins the game for us to make it 3-2. And then in our game against Leeds, Rashford opens the scorer to make it 1-0. Baku then manages to find Savic to make it 2-0, but in the 74th minute they come back at us with Sargent getting a goal, and then in the 86th minute, sadly, they managed to find another goal to make it level, and then we drew again against West Ham. Then it was time for our first Manchester derby, where Laporte managed to get himself sent off in the 24th minute, and then we opened the scorer with Trossard basically walking it into the goal to make it 1-0. And then Trossard has a terrible tackle and gets himself sent off, but doesn't matter anyway because we won the game. But then we find out that Bruno Fernandes is going to be injured for between 8 weeks to 11 weeks. That man is so injury prone, it's insane. Nonetheless, we were able to win our next game against Brentford 2-0, and then we had a home game against Everton, where in the 11th minute, their player Guay managed to get himself sent off with a terrible tackle there, and then 17 minutes in, Milinkovic-Savic opens the scorer. Dybala then makes it 2-0, and then Anthony runs it onto Gornadov, who then gives it to Savic again, and he makes it 3-0. And then in the 54th minute, we finished it off to make it 4. We then beat Wolves 2-0 away from home, beat Leicester 3-0 at home, and then had a 0-0 draw against Brighton. The next game saw us travel to the Emirates to play Arsenal, where only 14 minutes in, Ødegaard opens the scoring. But we do manage to get one back with Timber managing to literally chip the keeper from miles away. Do not know how that happened. But sadly, Martinelli was able to make it 2-1. And then just after half-time, Tierney makes it 3-1. And they weren't done there because Tomiyasu makes it 4-1. Not a great game for us. And that means that after 19 games, we're in second place, currently 3 points behind Liverpool. If we'd have beaten Arsenal, we would have been level on points with Liverpool, but they'd have still been ahead of us because of goal difference. And in talking of Liverpool, they are the team we played next, and sadly, we were only able to hold them to a 2-2 draw. A win would have been pretty much, well, crucial in this title fight, but yeah, like I say, sadly, only a draw. But we did manage to recover in our next game when we beat Aston Villa 2-0 away from home. And now, it is January the 1st, which means that the transfer window has opened, but you can see we are in a bit of a situation here financially. We are £300 million in the red, and we've only got £1.5 million of transfer budget. So yeah, financially things are not looking great for us. I don't know how we're going to be able to come out of this. There have been rumours of a board takeover, which hopefully would solve our financial situation. But the way it's looking, I don't think we're going to be getting anyone in this transfer window because we just can't afford it. Now, going back to the games, the next game we played was Leeds United, who we beat 2-0, and then we actually lost 3-0 to Leicester, which is a bit concerning. Next up, we had our reverse fixture against Arsenal, where we're actually at home this time, and Sancho opens the goals in the 2nd minute, so we're 1-0 up at this point, and then in the 70th minute, we're now 2-0 up. They do manage to get a consolation goal in the 81st minute, courtesy of Partey, but it means we've actually beat Arsenal, which is very, very crucial. And this is how the table looks after that game. We're in 4th place, but you can see 1st to 4th is split by 1 point. Now, obviously, we're all on different games, really. City have played 25, ourselves and Arsenal played 24, and then Liverpool have played 23, so everything still to play for. We then beat Crystal Palace 2-0 at home, and we actually made a signing. I know we said we didn't have any money, and that is why we've made a loan signing. I decided that Rashford up front hasn't quite been the prolific goal-scoring threat that he was last season, which means we needed a better striker, and that is exactly what we've brought in. We've brought in Evanilson on loan for this second part of the season, and he is incredibly good. Incredibly good. He's played 8 games so far in the Champions League for Porto, I think he actually come from, and he scored 8 goals in that, so yeah, very, very good player. And he makes an immediate impact in our next Premier League game when we beat Wolves, and he gets himself on the score sheet. We then beat Burnley 2-0, Manchester City once again 1-0, and then we actually lost to Fulham 2-1. We keep losing to these smaller teams. It's not good. And that means after those 29 games played, we are currently sitting 3rd on 62 points, and in 1st place is actually Arsenal on 66. Then in our next game, we beat Brighton 1-0, Everton 1-0, and then beat Norwich 3-1 at home, which means after those 32 games played, we're actually back at the top, but both Arsenal and Liverpool have a game in hand, and we're only 1 point ahead of Arsenal. Next up, we beat Spurs 3-0 at home, and then if we take a look at the table again, we've now dropped down to 3rd place. Liverpool are at the top with 75 points, and Arsenal are in 2nd with 74. The only thing separating us is goal difference. We then visit Brentford, where Evanilson, our new signing, then opens the scoring in the 3rd minute, and then after a assist from Malaysia, then gets another goal in the 7th minute. And then just before half-time, Fernandes decides he wants to do an absolutely brilliant strike there to make it 3-0. And then in the 86th minute, Savic there makes it 4. We then drew 1-1 against West Ham with Evanilson getting the equalising goal in the 90+1 minute. And then we beat Southampton away from home 4-1 with Evanilson getting himself a hat-trick. We then have a crucial game in the reverse fixture against Newcastle, where they actually scored a first goal within 3 minutes, which isn't great, but 15 minutes in, Evanilson does manage to equalise it. We thought we were looking pretty decent, but sadly our half-time talk must have not been very good, because 54 minutes in, they win the game, making it 2-1. And this means with the final Premier League game to play, where we'll be coming up against Chelsea, we are 1 point away from Liverpool. They're playing Leicester, so they're more likely to win. But yeah, we've got to win and hope that they either draw or lose, because yeah, even if we draw and they lose, we'll be on 82 points, but we're not going to be getting anywhere near their goal difference. So going into this game, like I say, it is crucial that we win, and 26 minutes in, Eriksen has an incredible strike there, but they do level just before half-time. And then with 7 minutes of normal play to go, Fernandes goes for a shot, has it saved, but Antony gets it in, and we win the game 2-1. But as you can see on the table, it wasn't enough. We did our part, we beat Chelsea, but Liverpool beat Leicester 1-0, which means in the end, we finish in 2nd place, 1 point behind Liverpool. It is a shame, because it would have been nice to win the league again, but obviously in terms of the Glory Hunter objectives, we'd already done it, so it doesn't matter too much. A big fall from grace there from Arsenal, because at one point they were actually at the top, and then they finished on 78 points. So yeah, not great from them. Now moving on to the FA Cup, in the 3rd round we played Fleetwood, where we beat them 7-1 with Rashford getting himself 4 goals. And then in the 4th round we played Burton, who we beat 7-0 with both Evanilson and Trossard getting themselves hat-tricks. And for the 5th round we have been drawn against Newcastle away from home, so that is going to be a tricky fixture. So here it is then. Hugo passes it on to Bruno and scores an absolute weldy from miles out to make it 1-0. He then makes it 2-0. And then we do get one back when Antony shoots, has it blocked. The keeper fails to actually pick it up, and then Evanilson puts it in. But in the 70th minute, Bruno finds himself in space, gets the hat-trick, and then that finishes the game for us to get kicked out of the FA Cup. Now, moving on to the Carabao Cup, in the third round, we got drawn against Gillingham at home and beat them 7-0 with Rashford and Sancho getting themselves hat-tricks. We then played Newcastle in the fourth round and redeemed our FA Cup loss by beating them 1-0 this time. And then we played Liverpool in the quarter-final, who we also beat 1-0. The first leg of the semi-final was against Fulham at home, and we beat them 2-1. The away fixture was an absolute goal fest where we opened the scoring with Anthony in the 7th minute, and then Van der Beek with an incredible strike in the 9th. Anthony once again in the 12th minute to make it 3-0 at this point, and then Fernandes makes it 4-0. They do get one back in the 37th minute to make it 4-1, but just after half-time, Anthony gets a penalty to make it 5-1. They get another back to make it 5-2. I did say this was going to be a complete goal fest. And then they make it 5-3 in the 72nd minute, but we were not done. Dybala with an incredible free kick to make it 6-3. And then in the dying moments in the 90th minute, Dybala puts it home to make it 7-3. And with that, we have been drawn against Tottenham in the final, which was actually a much tighter contest than I expected it would be. Son opens the scoring in the 12th minute, and we managed to equalise in the 72nd. And after that, it went to penalties, and it was Kane who missed his penalty to basically make Tottenham lose and us win, and we've got ourselves another piece of silverware. A bit of silverware that doesn't matter in terms of Glory Hunter, but another bit of silverware nonetheless. Now, moving on to Champions League, the bit everybody wants to see. And these are the fixtures that we've been given. Obviously, it's the weird new table format this time. So we've got 8 separate teams we'll be playing. A couple of difficult ones in there, like Dortmund, PSG, Porto could be quite tricky, but we will see. In terms of odds, PSG have been made favourites, and the rest of the contenders are Barcelona, Bayern, Real Madrid. We're there at 20-1. I feel like we have better chances than that, but you never know. Anyway, we beat PSV 2-0, then Porto 1-0. We then beat that team 2-0. Can't remember the name of them, to be honest. And in Milan, we drew 1-1. Our PSG fixture was a very hard-fought battle, with Rashford opening the scoring in the 14th minute, and then Savic making it 2-0 in the 25th. And then just before half-time, Neymar, of course, he was going to get himself on a score sheet, makes it 2-1. In the 86th minute, Rashford gets a goal, and then Messi in the 87th with an incredible free kick to make it 3-2. We then play Dortmund, where Dybala actually gets a goal in the 25th minute, but then they equalise a little bit after half-time. We then managed to make it 2-1 with Savic getting the goal there, and then Dybala making it 3-1. But the goals weren't over, because in the 86th minute, Dortmund managed to come back, and then I don't know what happens here. There's so many defenders, but none of them do anything. But it doesn't matter anyway, because we won 3-2. We then beat Marseille 3-0 with Rashford getting himself a hat-trick, and then we beat Betis 4-1 with Dybala getting himself a hat-trick this time. And with that, that is the end of the group stage, well, the league stage, I guess. And you can see we topped it with 22 points. I think we were the only team that didn't actually lose a game in this league stage, so pretty decent. But our unbeaten run didn't last much longer, because in the first leg of the round of 16 we lost to Inter 2-1. But the home fixture went a lot better, and you can see Evanilson getting it off of the defender there to make it 1-0, and literally just before half time, 45 minutes in, we make it 2, and then Evanilson 87 minutes in puts it beyond doubt to make an aggregate 4-2 and send us through to the quarter-final, where we have been drawn against Barcelona. This is going to be a very, very tricky fixture. Now, the first one, we actually got the home fixture as our first leg, which was very good, and Sancho managing to pick up the goal there from it hitting the crossbar, I think. 24 minutes in, Eriksen through to Sancho, and he puts it in again to make it 2-0. And then 64 minutes in, Evanilson, of course, he's going to get himself a goal, makes it 3-0, and then we beat them 2-1 in the away fixture. So we are through to the semi-final, where we have been drawn against Arsenal. Now, as a real-life Arsenal fan myself, this was quite sad seeing this in the inbox, but in terms of the Football Manager save, I think we've got a pretty good chance of getting through to the final with this fixture. And the first leg was absolutely insane. We were at home. Baku opens the goal in the 4th minute. And then they make a defensive mistake there. The defender basically passing it to Evanilson to make it 2-0. And he makes it 3-0 after Sancho's effort hits the post. Eriksen, an incredible free kick there to make it 4-0. Evanilson gets his hat-trick. Literally, this is before half-time. That was the 43rd minute. And then Rashford uses his head to make it, I think, 6-0 at this point. Yep, and then Evanilson gets the fourth in the 77th minute to make it 7-0. Incredible. And then they beat us 3-1 in the away fixture, but doesn't matter because the aggregate means that was 8-3, so it's still an absolute thrashing. And the fixture of dreams for, well, neutral supporters, I guess. United versus City in the Champions League final. Of course, bear in mind that City have never won the Champions League. It says there that we last won it in 2008, although last year's winners were PSG. So, I mean, in this game, obviously. So, you know, we'll see. It's going to be a very, very difficult battle. And it begins with Erling Haaland getting himself sent off in the 45th minute. And we're thinking this is going to be good. But it goes to extra time where Calvert-Lewin manages to get himself a goal, and then Evanilson gets a goal, but it turns out it's offside. And then in the 114th minute, it happens again. Rashford onto Savic. Rashford could have just shot, but he gives it to Savic, who is offside. And that's it. That is it. We were the better team as well. We had 24 shots to their 10, 2.2 XG to their 1.5. But stats don't matter. The result matters. What that means is that we have lost the Champions League final, which is so incredibly frustrating, and it makes it so much worse that one, we got to the final, and two, it was against City. Like anybody else, Barcelona, Real Madrid, PSG, it would have been slightly more acceptable, but against City, the big rivals, it's just so frustrating. But as you can see on the end of season review, we did get a bit of silverware. It was the Carabao Cup, so in terms of Glory Hunter objectives, it wasn't something we needed to win, but at least we haven't come out of this season empty-handed. Now, moving on to the transfers, you can see the best one was probably Evanilson, our £12 million loan fee. Quite expensive, but in the end, 20 appearances, 22 goals. You can't really ask for much more, and an assist. The board gave it a C+ because the fee is terrible value for money, which is probably true, but, I mean, he contributed 22 goals. Enough said. The other star performers were Gorna Dauf, who we spent 29 million on. Baku, obviously, we loaned him last season, brought him in permanently this season. Jurrien Timber, we paid £67 million for that man, but he's been very, very good for us. And then Trossard and Nanziel, not necessarily great, but decent enough. Now we get to see our failures. The Premier League, we came second, tantalisingly 1 point away from winning the league again, and then being runners-up in the Champions League to Man City. Of course, the Carabao Cup, we won. We just skipped over the FA Cup because, we don't talk about that one. But the Carabao Cup, we won against Tottenham, denying them yet another bit of silverware. And then our best 11 is shown here. Evanilson, Sancho, Fernandes, Anthony, Eriksson, Gorna Dauf, Shaw, Scalvini, Varane, Baku, and De Gea. Rashford not actually making the best 11 this time after being incredible last season, but I suppose bringing in Evanilson, he's simply just outshined him this season. And there you have it. That is the end of Season 3 of Glory Hunter, and yeah, overall, not fantastic. As far as seasons go, not bad. We came second, we finished runners-up in the Champions League, we won the Carabao Cup, but in terms of the Glory Hunter, we haven't actually achieved anything. I mean, last season we achieved a lot, but it really would have been nice to have got over the line and won that Champions League, because we could have left England. That was the last thing. Well, technically we can still leave England. That is the thing. We've won the league and we've won the FA Cup. We don't need to stay in England, so I will be looking at job opportunities. 3 years in the same country isn't the greatest thing for Glory Hunter, especially when you've actually already done the country objectives. We can win the Champions League with anyone. We've got like 20 years to do it. But I'm also thinking the quality of team we have with Manchester United at the moment, unless somehow we end up going to a team like Barcelona or PSG, we're unlikely to have that level of quality anywhere else. So we'll see what jobs are available. If something like that is available, then we'll probably go for it. But if not, we'll probably just stay at Man U, because I do definitely fancy our chances of getting that Champions League, especially since we got to the final this year, so there's no reason we can't do it again. But other than that, thank you very much for watching. Make sure to like, subscribe, comment, all that fantastic stuff, and I'll see you next time.